once, my ass.
I'm only 4. Bonjour, Monsieur Pussycat.
Cracking toast, Robert.
Start spreading the news.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the short podcast about short films. I'm your host, and we are discussing the Academy Award for Best Animated Short. Today's episode is about the 37th year of the award at the 41st Academy Awards, which celebrates the films of 1968. Today's guest is returning for the 4th time, last appearing on the pod to discuss Toot, Whistle, Plunk, and Boom in the nominees of 1953. Please welcome Owen Daly. Hello, Owen.
Hi, Jackson. Thank you for having me back. 4 times. I guess I've guested on every season, which is very exciting. And as you so nicely pointed out in your wrap up of last season, because of this podcast, I do watch all the shorts. So thank you so much for that shout out as well.
So you kind of answered my question already. Like, what is your familiarity with Best Animated Short category? You've been watching them. What's your
Exactly.
what's your take on the category so far, up to where you've watched?
Up to where I've watched, it all just depends on the year. Like sometimes I go from loving all of the nominees or loving a lot of them, realizing I've seen a lot of them because of just odd ways that Disney, especially Disney, airs a lot of their shorts on like I think I talked about it last time, that Beauty and the Beast live action show, making me realize I've watched so many of the shorts.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it's exciting to kind of experience the changes in animation and the power that the different studios have, and watching, sort of getting to understand a lot of the legendary characters a bit more, like the iconic characters who are regularly featured.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like, that's what I love about this category, because it is such a great piece of, like, it's a great way to view animation history, because it just gives you this long, broad glance at it. It is a mainly American lens, which is a fault of it, but still, you get a lot of like history just by going through this category and watching these, short films. It's really, really fascinating to me. uh, But yeah, let's get into these nominees. This year has 4. Our first nominee and the year's winner is Winnie the Pooh and the Blustery Day, directed by Wolfgang Reitherman. Now, Owen, each of your episodes are somewhat notable in terms of their relation to Walt Disney. Your first uh, your first was during his 8-year winning streak. Your second was the first year Walt Disney failed to get a nomination. Your third was his final win while he was alive. And for this one, we bring you in for a grand occasion. Walt Disney has passed away on December 15th, 1966. This is a posthumous nomination and win for Walt Disney, and of course is the last one he would receive, bringing his grand total in this category to 39 nominations and 12 wins. But I will also take this opportunity to recount every other Academy Award that Walt Disney has been nominated for or won. We have 5 nominations and 3 wins for documentary short, 1 nomination and win for documentary feature, 1 nomination in the first year of the best documentary category, where the distinction between short and feature was non-existent. There was also 12 nominations for best live action short, 8 being for 2 reels and 4 being for 1 reels, and 6 wins in total between the 2 categories. And there's 1 more nomination, that being for best picture for Mary Poppins. That totals out to 22 wins and 59 nominations. And Walt Disney also received 4 honorary Academy Awards. First in 1932 for creating Mickey Mouse, then 39 for, quote, significant screen innovation, which has charmed millions and pioneered a great new entertainment field for the motion picture cartoon, in regards to Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, which was presented to him as 1 big Oscar statue and 7 small statuettes. Third was a certificate Certificate of Merit in regards to the usage of sound in Fantasia in 1942. And in the same year, Disney received the Irving G. Thalberg Memorial Award, which is an award to producers for, quote, bodies of work that reflect a consistently high quality of motion picture production. Walt Disney is the most nominated and awarded person in the history of the Academy Awards, and that's in large part to this category we're talking about. He also holds the record for most nominations and wins in 1 year for one person in 1954, with 6 nominations and 4 wins, and the record for most consecutive awards with the 8 wins and 2 honoraries in the 1930s, and even more records beyond that. And good riddance to him. Uh, I what does With his death, this marks perhaps the true end of the studio era of the best animated short category. This isn't the last win from the Disney studio. In fact, there's another win in the very next year after this. But for a category that began with just Disney winning award after award after award, his death signals just how far this category has come and how it is moving past him. But I digress. Winnie the Pooh and the Blustery Day marks the first nomination and win for Winnie the Pooh and his friends in the 100-Acre Wood. The rights for Winnie the Pooh were acquired from the A.A. Milne estate in 1961 with the intent of making a feature film. However, as they developed the idea, it made more sense to turn the story into short subjects, and so that's what they did. The first short, Winnie the Pooh and the Honey Tree, came out in 1966 and was shortlisted for the Oscar but ended up unnominated. This was also the only Pooh film that Walt Disney himself would see completed. The second is the short we are talking about today, Winnie the Pooh and the Blustery Day, based on chapters from Winnie the Pooh and The House at Pooh Corner, both written by A.A. Milne. It starts with, as the title suggests, a blustery day. Pooh is out and about and runs into Gopher, who tells him it is Wednesday and that he should skedaddle. Pooh then goes around and to wish his friends a happy Wednesday. Through the short, we see a very piglet-shaped kite, a disaster at Owl's house, an encounter with a Tigger, and a nightmare about honey stealing Heffalumps and Woozles, and the rain, rain, rain coming down, down, down. Also, one more fact. This is the longest nominee in this category to date, clocking in at 24 minutes and 6 seconds. Owen, I've run out of breath. What did you think of Winnie the Pooh and the Blustery Day?
God, that's such trying to follow up that whole history about Walt Disney and to talk about this film is definitely intimidating.
No pressure.
Exactly, no pressure. Yeah, this short, I like I mentioned just seconds ago, there are so many shorts that I've realized I've seen before. And I've seen this before because I've seen the animated 1977 film, The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, which I hadn't realized because I didn't, because as usual, I don't do any research and just sort of go in blind. But no, I love this. This is just classic. Winnie the Pooh is such a adorable character who has had many different animations about him, with films reaching as far into the modern times. And it's just such comfort watching. And this was just so adorable. And while long, I didn't feel the length because of my familiarity with the character and just enjoying many of the elements of the feature. Of the short.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like Winnie the Pooh. He's one of the big Disney characters. Like, even if you don't know this short specifically, you probably grew up with Winnie the Pooh and his films, like either the original shorts or the TV shows or like the newer straight to DVD movies or the 2011 film, or even the fucking Christopher Robin movie that they made like a few years ago. It's just like he's been such a big, popular, constantly adapted character for Disney ever since they first started making these short films. And it's just like he stayed for a reason. He is adorable. I of course love all his friends at at the 100 Acre Wood. It's just I think my favorite is Eeyore because I can relate to him a lot. But also, yeah, I'll just say Eeyore's my favorite. But as for this short specifically, I think even when like watching the feature compilation of these of the first three shorts, uh this short still somehow stood out to me among the compilation just because this has probably the best different story elements. Like I love the Wednesday parts. I love when Tigger comes into Pooh's house and starts annoying him. That's no other way to talk about it. I love the Heffalumps and Woozles scene. I love the rain. I love the hero party at the end. It's just banger after banger after banger here. Or as it's like this is probably best the best Pooh stuff we've ever seen. We have. Um so yeah, I love this. Always have, always will. Great stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that a short film can have three distinct chapters to it, yet not feel as if my time's being wasted, is that much more impressive because all the chapters, well, the three chapters really intertwine well with each other. Um, where by the end you obviously have everyone coming together, and it feels like such an accomplishment to just have
Mhm.
experienced Winnie the Pooh find himself in this predicament, because I wouldn't say that he expertly goes visiting these wild journeys. He just sort of falls into them.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it's so funny at the end where it's just like when after he washes up on shore, it's just like, Pooh, you saved Piglet. It's like, I did. You were so brave. I was. It's just like it's speaking of which, poor Piglet, am I right? Like
Yeah, exactly.
he is just nonstop suffering in this.
Yeah. And what's so much more incredible is Winnie the Pooh being stupid. I don't find it irritating. I just find it so charming. I mean,
Hmm.
maybe it has a lot to do with the voice work by Holloway,
Yeah, Sterling
who just
Holloway.
sort of Sterling Holloway, who just sort of like just the way gives Winnie the Pooh his voice just makes me love him so much. And I'm thinking of another Disney character I know who you would probably find hatred in similarly, kind of Mickey the Mouse, and how he sort of finds himself in certain predicaments. And I know from listening to previous episodes, you not necessarily tended to like a lot of the shorts that find him in those situations. But
Mhm.
I, for myself, really enjoyed Winnie the Pooh stumbling into all of these situations in the short.
Hmm. Yeah, Winnie the Pooh is just such a endlessly lovable character. It's just like because he like the whole conceit of all the Winnie the Pooh shorts is that these are Christopher Robin stuffed animals kind of coming to life with his imagination or whatever. Or and it's just like yeah, the Winnie the Pooh is exactly what a teddy bear who comes to life would be like because it's just it's just he's just so lovable. He's just so cute and fun. And it's just like I feel I find it hard to think that like people would hate Winnie the Pooh. I know there's probably people out there who do, and it's just like how like get away from me, please, if you hate Winnie the Pooh. uh, but yeah, do you have a favorite segment of this many segmented film?
I think there's just something, the the Tigger section going into the Huffalumps and Woozies just sort of
Woozles.
really charms me, because Woozles, sorry, just because the music is just so like instantly there. A wonderful
Hmm.
thing about Tigger is Tigger's a wonderful thing. You just like it's just so it's just so part of childhood, and really made me feel so nostalgic watching it. So I think that was my favorite section, just because of the nostalgia factor.
Hmm. Yeah, I think I'd have to agree. Like, not even just because of the nostalgia factor, but just because, well, partly because of the music, because both that Tigger song and then the Heffalumps and Woozles song are both amazing. And then we have, oh, also like right after that, you get the rain song that's also great. Um, but then it's just like Tigger is just so fun. It's like it's so funny that this is his introduction, I think, into whole uh the whole story, I guess. It's like this is the first time he shows up, and it's just like what an introduction too. Who and then it's just like, yeah, it's just all so fun. I don't know how else to describe it. It's just like the Heffalumps and Woozles sing. It takes a lot of inspiration from the pink elephant scene from Dumbo. Oh, and it's just like both the pink elephants and the scene are just so crazy and fun. It's just like they really let the animators go wild with it. Just oh man, what a thing. Just a lot of fun. I don't really know how else to talk about this besides just saying, man, it's just really fun.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's a problem in talking about how great it is. I from previous appearances, I've definitely had my fair share of shorts that I've had to talk down about because I haven't enjoyed them, but just watching something so comforting like this short is just such a wonderful thing to experience because I love talking about things I love. People might think people who love film just want to talk about things they hate, but talking about things you love is just as incredible. And like I almost left speeches and just am overtaken by emotion because of how much I enjoy things like this short.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, and it's just like when things like this just become such an ingrained part of your childhood and stuff. It's just like coming back to them perhaps years later it's just overtaking sometimes.
Yeah.
Hmm. Anything else you'd like to say about this one, or would you like to move on?
I mean, I think we could go on for so long, but it would all come back to that. It's just such a great short. So, for the
Yeah.
sake of keeping with the titular podcast title,
The short
let's move
podcast.
on.
Yeah, we can move on to our second nominee, The House That Jack Built, directed by Ron Tunis. And no, this isn't the Lars von Trier movie. This is inspired by the nursery rhyme. This is The House That Jack Built, as well as the tale of Jack and the Beanstalk. And this is the third and final nomination for producer Wolf Koenig, the first and only nomination for Jim McKay, as well as the sixth nomination for the National Film Board of Canada overall. The film is about Jack, who is not too different from Ralph and Charlie and Tom and Pete and Fred and Sam and Dave and Gordon and Don and Elf. But Jack wants to be different. Jack has a car that drives him to work to pay the bill and worries the wife that turns on the voice that speaks in the house that Jack built. One day that car breaks down and he sells it for 3 beans. Of course, these beans end up to be magic ones and grow a massive beanstalk that Jack climbs, leading him to the house of not a giant, but a capitalist with a magic golden mirror that grants him unending confidence. Jack steals the mirror and ends up getting his wish. Um, I really love this short. It is like I didn't remember much about this short from my first watch of it, but oh my God, I just found myself really enjoying this whole thing. Like I love the animation, I love the way the story moves, like that the kind of repetition that it takes from the nursery rhyme at the start, but then and then it just becomes a Jack and the Beanstalk story. But the way it edits it to become like this tale about like class and like status and things like that, it's such a amazing fun take on like these typically like like child oriented stories and then just updating it and making it big. And it's just like it's such a gorgeous film too. I love this style. I and NFB, their animated shorts, they tend to always be very interestingly animated, but and this is no exception. Just absolutely love the way this thing looks and moves. And it's just God. I want to let you talk a bit. What do you think?
Yeah, obviously seeing the title, as you mentioned, I was reminded of the Lars von Trier film that I'd not seen because at this stage in my life, I just did not need to see that. And yeah, this was just wonderful. This was absolutely a total surprise from the very beginning. I've never seen a nursery rhyme so compelling as it is in this film. There was just with the repetitive animation, it was just so wonderful how it sort of fed into the dialogue that was being spoken. And then when it sort of takes that turn of becoming a remake of Jack and the Beanstalk, I was still so impressed.
Mhm.
Um I was yeah, it's just impressed by this. And just it's just so good. It's the animation is just so distinct and really sort of is fitting of the story it's telling. I felt almost as if I was watching like a Jacques Tati through the lens of animation. It sort of gave me that sort of feeling with
Mhm.
something like Mr. What is it, Mr. Hulot's
Mhm.
something. Yeah, it was just so
Yeah,
incredible.
Monsieur Hulot's Holiday, I think it is, or,
Yeah.
or like that whole series. It's a whole series. uh, but yeah, I think my favorite parts of this short were like the points when both like the little capitalist guy and also Jack are like looking into the mirror and then start just shouting out these praises for themselves in this such powerful booming voice as like the voice acting and for those parts is just so great. Hey, I just you start to believe it too, kind of, where it's just like they're just so the voice is just so powerful and it's a large voice and that you just start to believe it. It's like, yeah, they are great. And just God, there's a lot to love about this short. Or it's just like and the theming, the messaging, I guess, of it. It's like how it's both about how the the draws of like conformity, but also like how kind of awful it is to be a greedy capitalist, is to sit at the top of the food chain and how you can never be satisfied. Right? It's just it's a bit of a depressing message, but it's a real message nonetheless.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, while it's great to watch for its animation and its sort of feeling and flow, the message there is quite clear and I think well told. Like
Hmm. Very.
I got what they were trying to do, and it was very much a thing of oh, they can mix both the joy being of watching great animation, but also the importance of its message,
Hmm.
which I found really strong.
Yeah, it kind of becomes like this kind of children's storybook, but for like adults. Like it's not like it's not like a mature themed short film, but it is like a messaging that would more appeal to like older audiences. It's like if a child watched this, they're not going to really care about the messaging. It's just like it they'll just be focusing on the basic story and like the animation and stuff like that. But still, it's guys, this is just gonna be in circles for all these for most of these shorts. Just be like, wow, this is just so good. This is just so good.
Yeah, I mean, speaking in circles about the film sort of makes sense based on the short and how sort of repetitive it
True.
is.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, we will get to the other nominees. I'm not going to say that I can speak so highly of the others as these first two, but anyway, to this film, it made me want to give this the only like I feel like the Lars von Trier film has to rename itself.
Hmm.
Like this is just, I mean, I think I once saw like a not a review, but sort of a recap of that film, so I know what it's about.
Hmm.
And I like this is so much better, and I almost
Yes.
feel like I almost feel like Von Trier named it that because of his hatred of the world and how he wanted to take the title away from a children's nursery rhyme. And that's horrible.
Yeah, like so I've seen the Lars von Trier movie. I actually watched it in theaters. There was like a special screening of like the uncut version of the film the that like wasn't allowed for release or whatever. And so and I even won a mask of Matt Dillon from the movie. Like like there was a trivia thing before the screening and I won like a mask cutout of Matt Dillon from the movie because I knew that Lars von Trier was nominated for an Oscar for Dancer in the Dark, the song. I've seen it all. Anyway, um yeah, that movie is certainly a mixed bag. And I've never really been a fan of Lars von Trier. I don't like a lot of his stuff. And like The House that Jack Built is it's such a movie. Like it's very inconsistent in a lot of aspects, both in terms of quality and tone and everything. And it's just like parts of it are really good, parts of it are really bad. Uh, like sometimes it's fun or funny, sometimes it's just not even miserable, just boring. And it's just like and like I can handle like the gore and creepiness and whatever. That's fine. But it's just like Lars von Trier, you're a creep. I I don't like you. I don't like your movies. Just get out of here.
Of course. So, to the audience listening, wouldn't you rather just watch this under 10-minute short about a guy building a house and becoming corrupt in business practices? You would save so much time, and you would have a much better experience.
Hmm. Yeah, just I think more people would just be happier in life if they spent more time watching NFB short films. And it's just like they're very easy to watch. Like they have accounts on both YouTube and Vimeo and the like, and they have so many short films that you can watch. It's just like they're all well, maybe probably not all, but there's many that are just so great. And it's just like, come on, guys, watch more NFB. You deserve it. Treat yourself.
Exactly.
Exactly.
This film is definitely a treat.
Yeah. And I think that's a good place to move on to our third nominee, which is The Magic Pear Tree, directed by Charles Swenson. This is the first and only nomination for Jimmy T. Murakami, and the second and final nomination for Murakami Wolf Productions. Murakami was born in California, first living in San Jose, then moving to Los Angeles after being interned in the American concentration camps for Japanese Americans. Murakami entered Chouinard Art Institute, a precursor to what's now Cal Arts. His animation career began with UPA, working on The Boing Boing Show and several Ham and Hattie cartoons, including Oscar nominee Trees and Jamaica Daddy. He left UPA in the late 50s and found himself jumping around from studio to studio looking for work, even working on another Oscar nominee, The Violinist, before founding the aforementioned Murakami Wolf Productions, which got its first nomination last year with The Box, which also won. Murakami left the studio in 1971 and moved to Ireland, and there he made some of his most famous work. He directed adaptations of two Raymond Briggs stories: The Snowman, a wordless story about a boy who builds a snowman that comes to life, and When the Wind Blows, about the fallout of a nuclear attack from the perspective of a retired couple holed up in their home. The former will end up being an Oscar nominee in this category later on. Also from this period, he directed the music video for the Kate Bush song King of the Mountain and was a producer on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, reteaming with Fred Wolf. Unfortunately, Jimmy Murakami did pass away in 2014, though his collaborators Fred Wolf and the director of this short, Charles Swenson, still live today. Going back to the short at hand, Magic Pear Tree is about the amorous adventures of Jean Navarro, who was visiting the Marquis. The Marquis has just married Chantel. Chantel immediately sets her sights on Navarro and wishes to make love with him, but Navarro requires a demonstration that she truly loves him, acquiring feathers from Marquis's prize hawk, hair from his beard, and a tooth from his jaw. Chantel acquires the items, and now they must find a way to make love without the Marquis being suspicious. So they hatch a plan involving a magic pear tree. Owen, what did you think of the Magic Pear Tree?
Well, it's certainly a come down from the previous two shorts, uh,
Certainly.
specifically specifically for the animation, which was so unappealing.
It's awful.
Um, yeah, it just sort of distracts a lot from what's going on.
Hmm.
While the story isn't amazing, it's at least something that I feel like if it were paired with better images, could have worked a bit stronger. But if we're mainly talking about the animation in this animation short category, yeah, it didn't do it for me. It was not good.
Hmm. Yeah, this short is one of the one joke short films where they just kind of animate a joke. Okay, and then it's just like the short has its punchline and then it ends. And it's just like these tend to be some of the worst nominees in the category, including the infamous Crunchbird, which will come in a few years. Um, but yeah, this short, it has such ugly animation. It has awful voice acting, despite the fact that it has some legendary voice actors, including Agnes Moorehead as Chantel, somehow. Like, what? And it's just like, God, these accents are awful. They're so grating. And it's just I hate this one so much. It is just horrendous in every way. And it just takes forever to get where it's going. Like this is only like 7, 9 minutes long, but it just takes forever to get to the fucking end because we have to sit through so much grating dialogue. And it is I do not have kind things to say about this. I can't think of anything good about this short film. It's just the stupid ending where we find out what the titular Magic Pear Tree is. It's just like God, it's stupid. This whole thing is just awful. I hate this.
Yeah. I mean I can't help but agree. I mean it's incredible to me how sort of especially someone like Agnes Moorehead, who 4 years earlier had received her final nomination for Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte, where even with a ridiculous accent, she's so compelling.
Hmm.
And in this, I seeing that she voiced that character, I was in such a state of shock. I didn't want to believe it
Hmm.
because that is one thing I've never associated with Agnes Moorehead is being bad. She just sort she just sort of I mean at the same time I feel like I believe I'm right that as the short came out she was on Bewitched,
I
if I'm getting
believe
my
so. I can double check, but yeah, keep going.
so she very much is still a brilliant performer, but she just absolutely does not do well in this. And I know that's a lot to say, even though it's a voice performance, but I feel like it's important to call out terrible voice acting because we can talk for so long about terrible live action performances, but when you have terrible voice acting, it can really distract. I'm thinking of something recently, like in the one of the many Pinocchio films.
Hmm.
Um, the I'm sure everyone has seen like the viral clip of "I want to be out on my own."
But father, when can I leave to be on my own? I have the whole world to see.
So yeah, terrible voice acting is can be just as horrific as a terrible performance in a live action film. So the voice acting being as bad as it is by these very well known performers, also including Keenan Wynn, is just like really disappointing. And I just don't really have much to say about it.
Hmm.
I mean, I've seen it now, so it's another Oscar nominated film I've seen, but it's just something that I would never imagine wanting to return to.
Yeah. Yeah, unless you, like me, have decided to make a podcast about it, and while you do get to re-experience some great things, you also have to sit through some trash again. Uh, but yeah, Agnes Moorehead was on Bewitched at this time, and I just found out that she died like not long after this. She died in 1974, which is unfortunate. But yeah, um,
Yeah. Uh, well, if we can say one final thing about this short is that we love Agnes Moorehead, and not in this, but we do in general. At least
yeah,
for myself speaking.
yeah, I do love Agnes Moorehead, and like I forgive her for this. Like perhaps she doesn't deserve forgiveness for this, but I do forgive her. Uh, I I even I forgive Jimmy Murakami because he does go on to make much better things after this. It's uh
Exactly. Exactly. You mentioned the snowman, which growing up in Ireland at least was I've seen it so many times. I've seen it many times in our national concert hall with a live orchestra.
ooh.
That's yes, I've seen it a couple of times, and that they would usually they do that every Christmas, so it's very recognizable for especially myself growing up in Ireland.
Mhm. Have you ever seen where when the wind blows?
Yes, I've seen that as well, and those two snowmen and when the wind blows are so incredible.
Hmm.
Like that, people have so much great stuff to look forward to based on those two projects.
Hmm. Yeah, it's just if you at home like haven't seen either of those things, oh, watch them, please. Like perhaps wait until either Christmas time or when we cover the snowman on the podcast to watch that. But when the wind
Mhm.
blows, just watch that. But be mindful. It is about, the fallout of a nuclear war and features two elderly couple. It features an elderly couple. It is going to be depressing and you should be prepared for that. It is a rough watch, but it is great. But yeah, Magic Pear Tree, awful, awful, awful. Any other final thoughts from you?
No, other than this is a terrible short and unfortunately sticks out like a sore thumb in comparison to the previous two and for me the
Sure.
next film that we will discuss.
Which is our fourth and final nominee. First we had a Blustery Day, and now we have Windy Day, directed by Faith and John Hubley. This is the fourth nomination for John Hubley and the third nomination for Faith, and this is the first time either of them have lost this category when nominated, having won the three previous times when they were nominated: Moonbird, The Hole, and Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass double feature. This short is almost a return to form for them, as their last nomination was essentially a music video for Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass, while this one is much more akin to perhaps John Hubley's first nomination and Win Moonbird. However, while that was them recording their two sons, Mark and Ray, as they played and animating that, this is them recording their two daughters, Emily and Georgia. Also, I just learned this recently when Hubley historian Griffin Hansen updated John Hubley's Wikipedia page, but this improvised style that the Hubleys became famous for, or was inspired from the time John Hubley was making the Mr. Magoo shorts, and he regularly encouraged Magoo voice actor Jim Backus to improvise some of his dialogue. And from there, led to led to Moonbird and this and a bunch of other Hubley shorts that are focused around improvisation and things like that. In any case, Windy Day starts with Emily and Georgia putting on a play about a prince and princess, but the two frequently get sidetracked. Um, so I talk frequently about my love of the Hubleys. He's as just how I just adore their animation and a certain and while I haven't I don't love everything they made, including the their one of their most famous shorts, Moonbird, or is not a favorite of mine. This one I adored. I love the style of it. I love the gorgeous uses of color and the environments that they're in. and Emily and Georgia are so much cuter than Mark and Ray, I gotta tell you. They I love their dialogue so much more. And they're they're just so engaging to listen to. Like they're just two kids, but they're good kids. I love the little ways little Georgia gets distracted while they're trying to put on the play. It's just like, and at one point in the short they just start a different play about a giraffe and kangaroo. And it's just this short is really just like about, you know, childhood innocence, just childhood playtime. And it's a lot of fun. It's like it's a bit aimless, but still it's just a great short from the Hubleys.
Yeah, I have to agree. I um having at this stage only having seen Moonbird before, as I'm still making my way through their previous, I guess, wins, since you've just mentioned that fact.
Hmm.
Um, I preferred this much more to Moonbird, which I didn't particularly care for. Um, and I have to agree, these young sisters are so much more compelling and really much more fun to watch than anything that those two young boys did. Um,
That's girl power
like
for you.
exact. I mean, am I surprised that I find a short about two young girls much more thrilling and compelling than a short about two young boys? No, I am not shocked, but I still will point out that this is so much better. Um, I I think also the animation is much stronger. I think a main problem I had with Moonbird was I understand the style they were going for, but it was just I almost struggled to see what was happening because of the animation style. Whereas in this one, I see everything and love watching every little moment, like the ones that you've mentioned, and also the quick transformations that these characters take in their
Hmm.
play, like when they both become the two characters. It's just the way it moves is just so fun.
Hmm. Yeah, the Hubleys are so good about movement. It's just like really, just really getting a lot in their characters, like just through the way they move, and also just there's a lot of like there's those kind of quick transformations like that in a lot of their shorts, and it's just like those are always just so fun to see. Like it's just they're masters of movement, really. Yeah, and it's like that extends to like Hubleys his previous work at UPA and stuff. It's like stuff like a Re Toot Toot, like that is another one with such great character movement and things like that. It's just man, John Hubley and Faith Hubley too. Can't forget her. He like John more than anyone was like very insistent that you equally credit Faith because they are truly collaborators on these short films. It's just like it not no neither of them is more important than the other in terms of their the ones where they've worked together. Or so yeah, Faith and John, fantastic animators. Love them. Even when some even when some of their shorts are not like my particular favorites, there is still stuff to appreciate, like in terms of the character designs and movement and things like that. It's just great stuff.
Exactly. I 100% agree. And the work of Faith, I must point out, is makes the short better because obviously with Moonbird, at least from the credits, John was the only one to win that year. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm sure Faith had something to do with it,
Yeah,
but just the the fact
they
that they both equally won together.
yeah, so Faith was still like a big part of Moonbird. Like everything that they made since I think it was The Adventures of Asterix in 57 and like everything since then that's been uh Faith and John collaborating equally. So it's just the Academy didn't end up nominating Faith for some reason. And I think that was like a I think that did kind of piss off both Faith and John back then, but they were able to remedy it by getting eventually got her on the nomination list for The Hole and uh Herb Alpert. Her and Faith ended up becoming the first woman to be nominated and to win in this category. And she still is the only one nominated so far. And will be for like a decade, unfortunately. But still, she she is a fantastic figure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so happy that similar to how you've invited me for the um way that Walt Disney has played out in this category. I'm also excited to be watching a short by the first female winner. Well, she didn't win for this one, but I'm happy to be watching a short directed by a woman in this category.
Mhm. Yeah, and it is a good thing that later on, like we will be getting more and more like it won't be just white men in this category as things go on. It yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. Um yeah, back to the short at hand. There's this part in the short where like it's near the end. It's like we see the two girls. They're playing around, they have their play, and they get sidetracked sometimes. And then there's a point near the end where it just kind of like it cuts or like it moves to a completely different scene where uh we hear some voiceover from one of the girls. I can't really keep track which one. It becomes this she starts talking about a dream she had where she was like shot or something. And as this like it was such a big tonal shift if so sudden too. It kind of felt like the ending of No Country for Old Men, where Tommy Lee Jones is just talking about a dream he had that's kind of revelatory or whatever. And it's just like on the one hand, it is so sudden and different from the rest of the short, but also it really worked. Like that just put like that little scene just like really added a lot to this short for me. It just added so many just added a yeah, just added a whole other layer to like the enjoyment and interpretation. It just made it better. It's just like it was a great thing to add to really just divvy up the tone of it, I guess.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I think a moment like that very much gets into how young children, especially when telling or even when playing or telling stories, can sometimes get sidetracked quite easily, but still manage to return to their focus. And that's at least what my reaction to a moment like that is. It's very much these are children are the subjects, and they are true children in how distracted they can get easily.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. This is just such a better examination of like childhood innocence and the like than Moonbird was. It's just like I feel bad to keep talking about Moonbird on this podcast because it it is such an influential short film, and I love the Hubblies, but it's just like I just have a hard time getting into it. And it's like I rewatched Moonbird after watching all these nominees just because I was thinking it's just like, hey, it maybe since maybe I didn't like Moonbird when I was watching it back then was because I had been watching so many Disney and UPA shorts that to be suddenly hit with Moonbird was just like so it's just too different and that I had a hard time getting into it. Maybe like right after watching another Hubley short, I'd be more into it this time. But no, it's I still like it. It's like it's but it's still just very grating and long. I don't know. But I'm glad that I'm glad that the Hubblies have a lot of other great shorts, and it's not like they just made Moonbird and that was it. They have so much great work.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I don't think I can think of much more to say other than this was a really good short, and I was happy to watch it based
Yeah,
on having only previously watched Moonbird and not really enjoyed that.
yeah. I'm gonna be really curious to see what you think of The Hole when you watch that because that's another one where it's like a similar kind of style to uh this and Moonbird, but also it does a lot different things. Like that one, first of all, it doesn't follow children. It's improvised dialogue from Dizzy Gillespie and another actor, or I forget who, but yeah, that's one's a lot different. Eh, anyway, uh, now that we've gone through and talked about the four nominees, let's rank them all. Owen, start us off with your number four, which I can probably
Yeah,
guess.
I mean, I almost feel like we should say it at the same time.
Okay. Three,
Um,
3, 2, 1. The Magic Pear
the
Tree.
Magic Pear Tree.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think we properly discussed how much neither of us particularly enjoyed that short. And based also on the strength of the other three, it was the clear, easy bottom choice.
Yeah. It is just truly awful in an otherwise great lineup. And it's just like I just kind of like, and so like the thing with this category is that like the only way that we get four nominees, like when they watch the Academy voters watch the short list and their screenings or whatever, they rate them all on at a 4-point rating scale where it's like we have a 10, 8, a 6, or 4. And it's just like shorts can only get nominated if they reach 8.0 or higher, like an average rating from the votes. And it's just like the fact that there's four means that all four of these and only these four were the ones that reached that 8.0 threshold. And it's like Windy Day, Winnie the Pooh, and House of Jekyll. I see how those made it. Why do people like Magic Pear Tree? What is there to like? I have no idea. It is
Yeah,
just
I mean,
God. Yeah,
yeah,
go ahead.
also what makes me not like this short even more is the fact that this came in the middle of 10 years where there were only three nominees. So why there had to be a fourth nominee in the Magic Pear Tree this year is just like unnecessary.
Mhm. Well, yeah, like that's what I was saying. It's because of the way the whole voting thing works. So it's just like the only reason that Magic Pear Tree got nominated is literally because they liked it. And it's just like which seems like which for this one specifically seems like the most unplausible nomination. Like surely there must have been some backdoor business going on to get this nominated. Like I can't believe that people like this.
Yeah, maybe Agnes Moorehead had a Francis Fisher grassroots campaign to get this nominated.
The Magic Pear Tree, the small film with a big heart. Uh, Actually, I want to look up when this episode's coming out. Like, is this going to be after the Oscars this year? Yeah,
Okay.
March 30th. So yeah, when this comes out, the Andrea Riseborough business will be long behind us. So which will make this episode very timely, of course.
Of course.
What's your number three? Of the three good ones, what's your number three?
Yeah, so this is hard because I really enjoy these top three. But I think currently in this moment, I've got to go with Windy Day as my third
Mhm.
choice. And could this change depending on how I'm feeling? Yes, but currently I just rank it third just because it's slightly, very, very like picking hairs here. I didn't enjoy as much as the other two.
My number three is also Windy Day. And it's just like, while the other two shorts just were so engaging throughout, it's just like there were times when I found myself a little, uh, I thought the short was a little bit slow, like kind of hard to keep my attention. And it's just like it is still a great short. I still love it. It's just when it comes down to the wire and I have to rank these three, that's what puts this one slightly behind the other two. It's like still gorgeous. It's still such a beautiful portrayal of uh, children at play and things like that. But as I simply just don't like it as much as the other two. What's your number two?
So my number two is the house that Jack built. Um, while it's my number two, I can imagine myself returning to this so many times simply to just take in the animation style. But yeah, it just slightly is eked out by my number one choice.
My number two is Winnie the Pooh and the Blustery Day. Uh, which while this is something that I like grew up with and I still really love this now, and this is still a great short. Like this is one of the best winners in this category, but I still just it still just doesn't live up to my number one pick. It's like it's still so fun and so cute, but my number one pick I just love more. It's so your number one, Owen. What is it?
So my number one is Winnie the Pooh and the Blustery Day. Um, I will quickly mention, obviously, in the prep for this episode, you know as well as I do, it was a struggle to try to find and watch this film.
Mhm.
A struggle that I could have so easily avoided, but the struggle was absolutely worth it because it's such a fun, it's a nostalgic choice for me as well, and I don't necessarily look at that as a bad thing because rewatching it, it works just as well as when I had watched it when I was of a young age.
Mhm. Yeah, it's a film that really just it just holds up. It's just something that really stays with you. Yeah, and it's like with our troubles before the recording, it's just like part of me was thinking it's like a you've probably seen this already. What if we just like went on without you watching it? Like you could probably remember enough about it. But
And you would have been absolutely right. And as I said, the trouble could have so easily avoided.
yeah. But anyway, my number one is The House That Jack Built, which somehow triumphs over nostalgia, even though that is such an uphill battle. Uh, I just I don't even know how it just wowed me so much. I just found when I was watching it, I just found myself completely overtaken by it. It just completely in love with everything about this film. Just such a beautiful, just such an amazing, funny take on these like nursery rhymes and just applying class metaphors to it is just an amazing, amazing thing. So yeah, that's our ranks. We were pretty. I'm glad we have kind of pretty similar thoughts. Like we have different number ones, but still we're pretty similar.
Yeah, I mean, I believe this is the first time we've disagreed on the number one choice.
I
Correct me
believe
if I'm wrong.
so. Like
I'm what in 1940, what was your choice again?
uh oh, Telltale Heart. Like you we both picked that.
Yeah,
And then 1940 I think I picked Wild Hair.
as did I. So
Yeah.
I think this is the first time where we differed in our number one choice, but as I said, depending on the day, I could so easily want to choose the house that Jack built. But
Yeah.
just today, my current feeling was Winnie the Pooh.
hmm I was just scrolling through the list of episodes, and I'm just remembering now the Jolly Little Elves in Holiday Land from our first episode. As this like God, the Dunkin' Donuts song is still in my head. It's still in this dark recesses of my mind.
Yeah, thankfully, with Winnie the Pooh this year, we have great composers like the Sherman Brothers to
Yeah,
create songs that stick in our minds for only positive reasons.
yeah. Songs that are bouncy, trouncy, fancy, fun, pouncy, fun, 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 fun.
And the wonderful thing about them is they're the only ones.
They're the only ones. But yes. Before we end our show, are there any final thoughts you'd like to share, Owen, or anything you'd like to promote?
Final thoughts is if there's any character in any of these shorts that I most uh, see myself in, it's Eeyore, and I just wanted to say that.
Same.
Um, I associate with him so much, and I'm glad that I got to revisit him as well. I know we didn't mention it when talking about that short, but I just wanted that to be my final note in talking about these shorts. In terms of finding myself, you can find me on Twitter, where as of this year, 2023, I'm daily recommending films that I love. I will continue to do so. The choices varies depending on if I if I look across and I see the name and I'm like, that's the one today. I'm waiting for the day when someone watches a film because I've recommended it. When that happens, maybe I will give up the experiment. But as of recording, I'm on day 45. It is Valentine's Day, and I have recommended today Carol. But yeah, you can
Of
find me on
course.
Twitter and Letterboxd, where I constantly talk about film. I'm also in a sort of mini series watching phase of my life where I add those to Letterboxd as well. So that is where you can find me mainly talking about things. One final note is, I mean, we will have long past the Oscars when this episode comes out, but on my personal awards blog, tomorrow, I think tomorrow and the day after, I will be starting my favorite, listing my favorite for the films of 2022. So in the future, you can find that at an awards person where you can see all my choices for 2022. The people listening to this podcast in the future will know exactly my favorite already.
Hmm. Uh, just for fun, since we're going to be past the Oscars when this episode comes out, who do you think is going to win Best Picture this year?
Oh, I thought you were going to ask me who do I think is going to win animated short.
Oh, I haven't
Best.
seen the nominees, so I can't really predict that right
Oh,
now.
okay. Well, I will give you what I would like to win, picture and animated short, just because I watched all the shorts. Picture, I'm a sucker for Everything Everywhere All at Once. I hope it wins. At this current moment, I expect it to win unless something horrible goes wrong and something like Elvis wins.
Oh, Elvis would be a great winner.
Oh, okay, we'll have to disagree.
What about animated short? What?
And animated short. It's between two. It's Ice Merchants and An Ostrich Told Me the World is Fake, and I think I believe it. Um, Again, depending on the day, I will change my opinion. But as of this moment, I'm going with An Ostrich. Would be my choice.
Mhm.
And what I think will win will just be because of the absurdity of his title is My Year of Dicks. Um, and also because of that short, I recently listened to the episode. This had Oscar buzz with one of the film's nominees on it, and it was probably my favorite episode recently. And with them discussing Magic Mike XXL. So to discuss another podcast, I guess, listen to that episode to hear one of the make with the writer of My Year of Dicks and how incredible she is. So yeah, that's where I went at.
All right. So yeah, I'm excited to really check out those animated this year's animated short nominees. Like I've heard so many great things about An Ostrich Told Me the World is Fake, and I think I believe it, which already great title, but I've just heard everybody seems to really love that one. So I'm excited to see that and the other nominees when I get a chance to watch them. Uh, but outside of that, thank you, Owen, for coming on the show, and then thank you, listener, for tuning in. This has been the short podcast about short films. Until next time, goodbye.